In the third and final preseason game, the Kansas City Chiefs absolutely exploded versus the Chicago Bears and showed us just what this offense might be in the 2025 season. We're going to go through the offense in this video and talk about what we learned about the offensive side of the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs against the Chicago Bears. But we have to start someplace else, and that someplace else is with Brett Veach. We need to prepare to lose Brett Veach for 4 to 8 games this season. It would be a first violation, so I'm not sure how lenient they will be, but Brett Veach looks like he needs to pee in a cup. Look at the absolute monster on your screen right now. Brett Veach has been doing his calisthenics. He's got an RAS score in the mid-9s, and he's repping out 225 for 37 reps. That is incredible. And for the general manager position, it is a perfect 10.0 score. No other general manager across the league is hitting anywhere near the mid-30s. But we do have some actual football to talk about. And we're going to start with Patrick Mahomes. We haven't had a lot to talk about with Patrick Mahomes during this preseason because there haven't been very many passes. He threw 13 passes in this game, ended up going 8 of 13 for 143 yards and a touchdown. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I don't want to go out on a limb and project anything, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. 1 quarter of football, 143 yards. If you stretch this over the course of the entire game, which you shouldn't do, but absolutely that is what we're going to do, it would be a 32 of 52 performance. And mind you, there were drops in there. 32 of 52 performance for 572 yards and 4 touchdowns. That would be an incredible game. That is exactly what he would have done had he been in the game. There are no doubts in my mind that this revenge tour is on pace. And a 572-yard game is an incredible performance. And we don't have to say that there are multiple vagaries that go into what an NFL game is. This is exactly what his stat line would have been for this game, possibly more. He may have thrown for more yards. Over the course of a season, this game would translate to 544 completions out of 884 attempts, 9,724 yards, which is exactly what I expect Patrick Mahomes to do in the 2025 season, and 68 touchdowns. He might throw for more than that, get those drops out of the way, and almost certainly he will throw for more than 68 touchdowns in this season. That would smash NFL records. The record for here's the funny part. That yardage total, 9,724, would be absolutely monstrous. It would smash the record by basically an additional season, an additional top 20 type all-time season. So this would be a first overall season and a 15th overall season combined in 1 year. But the completions record is actually not that far off of 490 or of 544. It is only 64 more completions than Tom Brady threw in 2022 at approximately 63 years of age. So the all-time record for completions in a season is 490. Think about that pace. The record for yardage is 5,477, set by Peyton Manning in 2013. That's an incredible season too, but the 9,724 mark that Patrick Mahomes for which Patrick Mahomes will absolutely throw is almost double that number. However, the touchdowns of 68 really isn't too terribly out of what is realistic. 55 is the passing touchdowns record set by Peyton Manning in that same 2013 season. It was a monster season for Peyton Manning. Interesting, though, so over a decade ago, that hurts to think about. The incredible thing here is that the only thing, if this first quarter were blown out into an entire season, which obviously it will not be, the only record that is out of reach for anyone else, or out of what has been sort of in the purview of the NFL, is the yardage, right? 55 to 68 touchdowns, that's a difference of 13. 490 to 544 completions is a difference of 64. So odd that the only number that is absolutely monstrous there is the yardage total. Think about how incredible those other seasons were, that 2022 from Tom Brady and the 2013 Peyton Manning season. The absolute mind-blowing thing to think about with this is that there were 4 or 5 drops on Patrick Mahomes. Kelsey had a drop, Brashard Smith had a drop, Juju Smith-Schuster had a drop. Would have been a tough catch, but it would be considered a drop, I think. I think there were a couple more, at least one more in there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do not expect that to carry over into the season. These guys haven't played a whole lot. They're going to get this back under control. It's a little coordination thing that they're going to fix. They're going to tighten up. Travis Kelce always has a couple drops during the course of a season like that. It's always the passes that hit him right in the numbers that he seems to drop. But I don't expect that to carry over into the season. And think of what this game, this few series from Patrick Mahomes could have looked like without those drops. If there were just the 3 drops, that would have put him at 12 of 13, or 11 of 13, pardon me. But he wouldn't have had some of those other opportunities, so you don't know exactly what that would have looked like, right? Completing the first pass makes the second play off of that completion different. One of the things that is starting to worry me watching how this team looked during the Chicago Bears game is that, and this is the closest thing to Chiefs football that we've had, right? You had an entire quarter of the starters. You had maybe not game planning, but you certainly had more complex plays than they had showed previously. The offense might be so explosive, and I do not mean this as hyperbole. I do not mean this in the same way that I put those full season projections for Mahomes up there, but the offense might be so explosive that we return to some of the problems that the defense had in 2018, in that they're just going to be on the field for so long. The offense could be off the field in 6 or 7 plays, putting the defense back out there, and the defense doesn't usually give up great big explosive plays. They do a lot of bleeding, right? Bend but don't break, which means that they will be on the field for that much longer. That's a ton of playing time for the defense, and they will need depth. So it is troubling to see the edge depth already diminishing on this team. The one thing that does sort of negate that we have in Kansas City now that we did not in 2018, Steve Spagnuolo. Probably you have been on some job site, you have been doing some project in your home, and things keep going slightly wrong, and it culminates when you throw the screwdriver, you punch a hole in something, and you walk off for 15 minutes. Steve Spagnuolo will do that as a defensive coordinator. He will, at the end of a long drive, at the end of a second long drive, at the end of a third long drive, say, screw it, I'm angry, we're going to blitz the quarterback, we're going to knock the snot out of somebody. And in the NFL, what that can do is cause mistakes. Mistakes like an interception, mistakes like a sack fumble, and that puts the offense back on the field. So I do trust Steve Spagnuolo in this situation more than previous defensive coordinators, should the defense find themselves in that position. Now, moving on to the offensive line, I'm going to have to go back a couple more times. I watched most of the offense at least twice in this game by this point. Something that doesn't add up, something that I cannot believe. I cannot actually believe that this is the case. The left side of that starting offensive line looked better than the right side. Kingsley Suamataia had his best performance of the preseason thus far. Trey Smith, I thought, struggled a little bit in this game. There was penetration on that right side. The left side, if the left side of the offensive line in this season ends up being the strong side of the offensive line, not only would that be a shock, but it would mean that the NFL is in some serious trouble. Speaking of that left side of the offensive line, Jalen Moore ended up playing, I believe, exclusively right tackle. Now, I haven't gone back and done too much work on this, but I believe he played exclusively right tackle in this game, meaning they are banking on Joshua Simmons holding down that left side of the offensive line as a rookie. So that is something to think about. That is something to watch. That is something to monitor. Jalen Moore and the versatility that he provides. He played left tackle in San Francisco. He is practicing at right tackle here. He has done reps at left guard here. This player might be one that allows the Kansas City Chiefs to carry one less offensive lineman on the roster, on the 53. That would allow them space for another position. You're thinking, obviously, wide receiver at this point. Not sure that happens, not sure, but you don't dress all of your offensive linemen on game day anyway. So if you have a guy that offers you 3, possibly 4 position versatility, we haven't seen Jalen Moore take any reps at right guard, but can he do it? You know, if that allows you, plus you have Mike Caliendo, who can play either guard spot and center. You have Hunter Nourzad that can play center and either guard spot. That allows you the versatility to perhaps roster one fewer offensive lineman. Last year they carried 10. Maybe this year they carry 9. I really do think CJ Hansen is coming along nicely. I know that he has gotten some flack in the commentator community this preseason, but I think that he's doing a good job out there. Maybe not the most active, maybe not the best with his hands, but I do think that he is growing. Remember, he came from a very small school in college. He spent all of last year on the 53. So I think that the progress that he has made to this point should be observed and I think appreciated, because I do think that he offers a lot of upside to this team. Ezapole continues to impress me. Now, he gets his body into people, which is effective but suboptimal, right? You come across a guy who is very talented, with an edge rusher who's very talented with hands, with extension, all of this sort of stuff, and putting your body into him is going to play against you. But if Ezapole learns to use his hands well and get just a modicum of footwork down, he's going to be good. He's going to be a real NFL offensive tackle. And I don't know if it's going to take him that long to get there. I do think that he is destined for the practice squad this season. But guys, he looks like he's effective enough. He's so effective that I think he really does have he could start. I think if he gets the footwork down completely and he gets the handwork down completely, I think that's a starting offensive lineman in the NFL. Dalton Cooper is going to be a 53-man roster guy at some point. I do believe that. I think he has a higher ceiling than Mike Caliendo. I don't know that he offers the versatility at center because he's so tall, but he's shown more bend than I thought he had coming into the season. So if he can get himself to the point where he could offer snaps at center, no pun intended, then I think that he has 5 or at least 4 positional versatility. I don't know if he's athletic enough that you really want to put him out there at left tackle, but right tackle, I think he could do it a couple years into the league, right? So he definitely has the length, he definitely has the size, he definitely has the height. The hands and the quickness, the foot quickness, are going to get him at tackle. But that is an incredible tool to have, a guy who has that much versatility. At the running back position, a few fewer notes here, but I think definitely things worth commenting on. Isaiah Pacheco is going to have a monster year just in time for contract negotiations. Isaiah Pacheco looks leaps and bounds ahead of where he was last year when he returned to the lineup. Remember, he lost some of that explosiveness. It looked like he lost some of that speed. He looked like he lost some of the vision that he was proving he had earlier in the season. This year, he looks not only ahead of where it was that he was when he came back from injury, but he looks ahead of where he was early in the season. He looks to have built on all of his experience in the NFL to this point. Rashard Smith in this game showed you what a rookie is. A couple mistakes there. I do think that the team really does like him, really does like what he adds, really does like his ceiling. You're going to have slip-ups as a rookie, and that's just what he showed. If the offense is good enough that they can overcome that, and they showed on that first drive, 2 incompletions and then a first down, right? They showed on that drive that they can compensate, at least at times, for the mistakes. So I do expect that he will be a part of the game plan, knowing that you can compensate for any mistakes that he does make. Elijah Mitchell wants to be a part of this team. He was running with fire. He was running with ire. He was running with desire. He was someone who looked like he wanted to be on the field. At times, he did not look like he particularly wanted to be on the sidelines, but that's what being angry does, right? You have been this guy at work. Your boss says, hey, you're not performing. Oh, yeah, you want to see performance? I'll give you performance. And you have an incredible shift at work. But when your boss comes in, you're not going to talk to him, right? So I think that is a little bit of what we saw with Elijah Mitchell in this game. Nothing to be worried about, I don't think, with his seeming, right? You don't know, but seeming attitude on the sidelines. A wide receiver. Not too terribly many notes here because it was kind of just seamless, kind of a seamless game besides the drops. Thornton had 1 reception for 58 yards. I'm going to do the projections again for a season, but this is just to show you how ridiculous it can be for a player like Tyquan Thornton if he hits that stride. If he had 1 reception for 58 yards, okay? Not a huge box score, right? 1 play, but that play takes the top off of a defense for the rest of the plays that you're out there. If he did that once per game, 1 58-yard reception per game, at the end of the year, he would have 17 receptions, 986 yards, right? Not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. That's not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is every defense in the NFL knows, boy, he can get that 58-yard reception. And if I let that up, then all of a sudden the complexion of the game is different. It's the same thing. A long punt return changes the field position, changes the optics on a game. The same thing for a wide receiver like Tyquan Thornton snagging a 58-yard reception. It doesn't have to be a 58-yard reception every game. Sometimes it's going to be 30, sometimes it's going to be 20, sometimes it's going to be 68 yards, right? That changes the complexion of your entire offense because that safety is not in the box. That safety is not only not in the box, but his attention is torn because he has to know, not only do I have to pay attention to the play. If this is a draw to Isaiah Pacheco, I've got a gap I have to go up and fill. But he has to keep Tyquan Thornton in the corner of his eye regardless. So that type of thing is going to make a marked improvement for this offense, just the threat of it. It doesn't have to happen every game. The way that Andy smiled when Nico made that catch, I believe it was the catch that was ultimately negated by a penalty, tells me that Nico Remigio's on the 53. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the numbers look like at the wide receiver position, but Nico makes the team. I don't know what to do there. This is going to be a very difficult position to cut. This is going to be a very difficult position to finagle your 53-man roster around because I think that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to look at their offensive linemen and say, hey, if we do keep Ethan Driscoll, that means we can't carry Jason Brownlee. If we do keep Carson Steele, that means another wide receiver is going to be, I don't think Carson Steele makes the 53, but which is wild because he started games last year. It's going to be a difficult thing to work your way around. Speaking of Jason Brownlee, the second team offense, 3rd and goal at the 6. The go-to play there was a back shoulder fade to Jason Brownlee. Brownlee is getting open. He's open when he's covered. You see that when Patrick Mahomes is on the field, he can place that ball exactly where it needs to be, that someone like Jason Brownlee can get it. And he's also drawing penalties. He had a pass interference play. I believe that was in the end zone, right? I don't think it was before the end zone. I can't remember off the top of my head. I apologize. But he drew a penalty, a pass interference penalty. Those are big penalties. Why did he draw that pass interference penalty? It wasn't because the corner didn't think he was going to be targeted. It was because the corner knew if this ball is anywhere even remotely catchable, Jason Brownlee has the catch radius to make a play on the ball, and now I'm in trouble. So that is a real difference in the game. I don't know what the math is going to look like at wide receiver, but it would be a shame to lose a guy like Brownlee because you don't have another guy with that skill set, with that size, with that catch radius. Also, worth taking into account, how many targets did he have? Now, it might be a bad sign that he had all those targets but very few receptions, but he drew a big penalty, which is the same thing in the eyes of the coaches as getting a reception, nearly the same thing, because it would have been a touchdown had you caught the ball, but wasn't it first and goal at the one? I can't remember. I apologize. But worth taking into account that he did have all of those targets in this game. Keyshawn Smith is someone to watch for the practice squad. I've spent a lot of time talking about Magdalena, talking about Elijah Badger, but Keyshawn Smith is looking decent in the preseason, and these are his statistics from college. He's a guy that his final year at SMU, he caught 33 passes for 527 yards. That's a 16-yard average and 5 touchdowns. For the course of his college career, a 14.9 yard average. And it wasn't just that he was feasting on competition at SMU. He had a 13.8 yard average per reception at Miami. So he's a guy that you would think offers down the field potential. Also, a lot of touchdowns in college, 13 touchdowns in college. If he was on the field, he was a threat to be in the end zone. And his production was spread over a few different seasons. 2021, he had 405 yards. In 2023, he had 392. And in 2024, he had 527. And you would think that he would have had more in 2022 as well, but he only appeared in 8 games. So someone to keep an eye on. I don't think he's not going to make the 53, but he could be a practice squad wide receiver, might knock Magdalena off of the practice squad. I think that Magdalena has had the least impressive preseason of those 3 wide receivers. But again, I think Magdalena will probably find his way back into the NFL if he is not on the practice squad for the Kansas City Chiefs. And just a couple of notes at the tight end position. Travis Kelce with the drop, nothing to be worried about there. That's Travis Kelce. I mean, we see this every year from Kelce. He will drop a pass, he will turn red in the face, and then he's going to catch an almost impossible pass, put his face mask into someone else's helmet, and break a tackle for a big play later. That's kind of the Travis Kelce MO. He is a player that feeds on either ego or anger. That is a good thing in the NFL to have 2 things that can motivate you into a big place. Some guys get disheartened when they have those passes. They question themselves when they have those passes. Travis Kelce does not. That confidence goes with him. And the final observation for the offense here, Jared Wiley is going to be an interesting part of this offense. Not a lot of stats. He caught 2 passes for 12 yards, but he looks good. See him out there, I believe, on special teams, and it looks like his blocking is getting better. If he can turn himself into an effective blocker, then he's going to have a very large role on this offense in the future. So he's a very fluid athlete. So Robert Tonyan, not the biggest game this game, right? So I think that if you can get blocking out of Jared Wiley, if you can turn Jared Wiley into a guy that is going to be counted on to seal an edge, turn him into a guy that is going to be counted on to reach the linebackers, things like that, which, again, he doesn't have to blow people up. Robert Tonyan can do that. Jared Wiley doesn't have to. He has to be effective. Make him spend some time with Ezapole, right? Just that effectiveness on the field. It could be a situation where, despite the preseason that Robert Tonyan has had, Robert Tonyan finds himself on the practice squad initially. I don't think he would last there long. Maybe he gets claimed. That's the big risk with putting him on the practice squad, is that after the preseason he's had, after some of the early career that Robert Tonyan has had, proving that he can still be that guy in this preseason, someone might claim him off the practice squad. I think they want to go with 4 tight ends. I think that is the game plan for the Kansas City Chiefs. that seems to be what they want to do every year, is find that fourth tight end, right? You see movement on the roster. The past 4 seasons, I think, they've had a lot of movement at the bottom end of the tight end group. But those wide receivers, man, they become a big question at this point. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this video. The offensive, what did we learn from the third and final preseason game for the Kansas City Chiefs? On your screen now are 2 playlists and a video that YouTube thinks you will enjoy. As always, I hope to have you back for the next one.